As you can probably just see, I'm still coming down from my high of that win against the Browns. But really, there are a lot of different things we could take away from this game. But before we can, you guys always need to understand that a win is always a win in the National Football League. And although this is a win, there are a lot of things that can be absolutely improved from this, and also a lot of questions heading into next week. But here's what I will say heading into next week is that first thing just to take away from this game, Henny pulled through. That's what I have to say. And especially with Mahomes, if you guys did see that play, which I'll get into in a little bit, going out with a concussion in the third quarter. One of the things I will definitely say, though, is that Chad Henne definitely pulled through. And I think having a veteran was definitely a big advantage in this game. Because especially in those situations, I think you definitely have – if you got like a new guy that basically is not taking a single snap throughout the entire season, it really can really affect how your team plays late in the game. But what I definitely do need to say is this, especially regarding the injury situation. We're going up against the Buffalo Bills next week at 6:40 Eastern Time, 3:40 Pacific Time in Kansas City next week for the AFC Championship game. It's the third straight AFC Championship game in the last 3 years in a row. So, and also on top of that, you basically have the third straight AFC Championship game that we've hosted. So, a lot of expectations are going to be heading into this game. But the big issue is going to be, what is it going to take to beat this team? Now, let's just take a look at the injury report here. And you're seeing that, obviously, the big story, Mahomes going out with a concussion. He needs to be healthy. I did not see us winning without that guy. Rashad Breeland went down with a concussion, was also rolled out. He needs to be healed up. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who missed this game. And Bell was basically not very much to be seen. Darrell Williams was basically the main one doing most of the work. Would love to see him come back. And also Sammy Watkins, calf injury, also missed this game. Very, very good if he comes back. Now, when you're looking at these guys, and the big thing that we have in common here is, why did we still win this game without these guys? Because Mahomes, if you just told me Mahomes was out to this game, I'd say we do not have a chance in this game. It would be a blowout. Helaire has been one of our star running backs throughout the entire year. Really, our run game is mainly based off of him. Watkins makes the big plays when time is needed. And especially in playoff time, if you've seen over the last couple of years, he's really been the one guy that's always been there. And basically, Rashad Breeland, especially last year and a couple of years, he's also been a great guy to be there. But how do we win this game? And I keep saying this time and time again, especially during the game when I was watching this. Nick Chubb, if you saw that drive where they cut the lead down to 5, when Chubb was just running all over them and Hunt was running all over them, if they just did more of that in the first half, I think it would be a totally different ballgame. And on top of that, we had a crazy defensive play, and I want to talk about this rule in a minute, where the ball went out of the end zone. Rashad Higgins basically was reaching with the ball. We've seen this play many times before, where Rashad Higgins basically stretches out the ball into the end zone and then has fumbled it before it crosses the plane, and it goes out of bounds for a touchback. Now, and what's up, everybody in the chat? Thank you very much for tuning in. One of the big problems I have with this rule, and I've been not liking this rule for a while now, and the thing I don't like about this rule is that, especially with the stretching thing, is that you usually stretch the ball to get it past the plane. And especially when you cause a fumble and then the guy intentionally just knocks it out of the side of the end zone and it calls it a touchback. Where if you knock it out of just the back of the end zone, it's a safety and you still get the ball back. So the big issue I have with this rule is going to be the reason why I just think it's not fair to the team. And it's a way to punish them. Like, I'd much rather have it to where if you fumble it out of the end zone, you basically should retain possession as a touchback to your team. So you get it at the opponent's 20-yard line or 25-yard line. Not where it's a touchback for the other team and it's basically a turnover. Now, speaking of the turnovers, we only had 2 turnovers in this game, only 3 points off turnovers. If you remember by my keys, I said to win the turnover battle and capitalize off of turnovers. That was not here to see today. And against the Bills next week, you get turnovers against this team, you need to score. Because if you just get 0 points off turnovers with 2 turnovers in the game, that's basically the equivalent of having no turnovers for either side. So really the most important part is going to be, especially with the turnovers that happened with in this game is to execute off of it. And that's especially what I'll talk about later this week. Now, especially about the Rashad Higgins reaching in the end zone fumble touchback. That's what I was saying is that the rule needs to be changed. There are a lot of rules in the pros that I really do not understand. The one rule I do not understand is 100% this rule, for this reason only, is that it just completely, if you're just looking at the game as a whole, this team lost by 5 points. That touchdown goes in, you get 6 points on the board, they win this game. So that really could really have just changed the momentum of the entire game, because instead of going into halftime being down 16-10, instead it's a turnover out of the back of the end zone. And then Mahomes, at the time when he was in the game, drove down the field and gets a field goal and goes into the half up 19-3. Instead of it basically going into half only up 6. So at that moment in time, if you really thought about it, what could possibly have gone wrong then? Because you're up by 16 at the half, right? If you told me you're up 16 at the half, I don't know how you come back to win this game with Mahomes in the game. Then the second half comes around. Then you see basically what happens. A lot of things go wrong. If you look at the opening drive, we'll just start from there. Opening drive, Baker Mayfield throws an interception to Tyrann Mathieu. From that drive, had the ball inside the 20-yard line to start off the drive. What happened there? Missed 33-yard field goal. Cleveland gets the ball back. Baker then has a drive where he just continually hands the ball off to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and run the wheels off them. And what happens? They get a touchdown and cut the lead back down to 9. We get the ball back. Then what happens? Drive down the field. They get another field goal. Lead back up to 12. Then, also during that drive, if you remember, Mahomes went down. Had to be and if you remember throughout the entirety of the game, is that Mahomes was really getting, of course, in the beginning of the game, went to the tent for his foot. He was a little bit limping a little bit. And then he goes down. And this is the play that really bothered me, especially in this situation. And this is where thing almost I thought was going to go wrong. Because when you had Mahomes basically in the game, there's a fear factor I feel that's in that guy. Basically, the difference between him and Chad Henne is basically the difference between having a superstar quarterback in and having a nobody in. That's not really what it is, but the difference between those two quarterbacks are crazy. Okay, so you take that. Then, once you have just that, and Mahomes is out of the game, heads to the locker room, is evaluated for a concussion, is ruled out. Then, finish the drive, end up with a field goal, and now up 22-10. Then, from that drive, what happens is, my bad. So before the field goal, I got the drives wrong, is that the Browns, once again, went down the field, was forced to punt. And then what happened is that we went down the field, Mahomes gets knocked out, scored the field goal, and then they get the ball back, and then they start running the wheels off of Chubb and Hunt. They score a touchdown, cut the lead to 5. Then, in the next drive, was a very bad sequence there. And I'm just going by the highlights. I may be missing drives also, but I am just going by the highlights here. Is that Chad Henne on a great pass to Travis Kelce gets us inside the red zone. On that same play, a late flag gets thrown, and what happens is it was a personal foul for an illegal block, and by blocking them below the legs. So instead of it being inside the red zone, it's basically out of field goal range, which is huge at that time, and it's 15 yards back and becomes 1st and 25. On the very next play, Chad Henne, I'm going to break this down more. This is just my first impression. And I'm going to go back and look at it. But throws this ball, and nobody's in the vicinity. Is an interception, and it's a touchback for the Browns with 8 minutes to go in the game. That's when things really started to change. I mean, if you're just looking at that game from that perspective, at that moment in time, I had no idea what was going to happen. I even had a shot in thinking that we were probably going to lose this game. Then this is the point here where I have to give this thing to Chad Henne. For that point on, the plays that he made, especially in that last drive, what happened was, and also the defense as well, making the stops when it was needed. But I really need to give a lot of credit here to Chad Henne, because basically what happened was he, on this 4th and inches play, and I continually love seeing him call this play, by the way. If you look at that play, they line up the Browns. They're blitzing everybody. Now, in that situation, you literally, and this is under 2 minutes to go, by the way. On that situation, you usually see coaches, normally you want to run the ball, because usually the easy way you get the ball is to run it up the gut, and you get about a yard, and then you get the first down, because it was a 4th and inches at the time. But the thing that I really loved about this play, and especially that I learned from basically about Chad Henne from this play, is that, and basically Andy Reid also, is the play call that they made was very risky. All right. If I was them at the time, I'd probably be sneaking it up the middle. That's the logical play you would take. But you see the players, they're showing blitz the entire time. They don't drop anybody back. And Chad Henne has an empty backfield at first while the clock is still running. And what happens is Darrell Williams, instead of keeping it with an empty backfield, comes and 100% just lines up as basically as if he's going to probably hand the ball off to him. Then what happens is from there was probably the biggest decision that was very much paid off, is that he decided to roll out and pass it to Tyreek Hill to give it the game to the Chiefs. Now, why I love this play is because they were not expecting it. This is a play that usually when you're down on a 4th and inches play, trying to ice the game with 1 first down, you generally run the ball, usually do a QB sneak with your quarterback, and hopefully try and get 1 or 2 in 1 yard and hopefully on the game. Now, what I love about this play is that when you roll out to the side on a play when they show blitz, you basically know you're going to probably have a wide open guy, which Tyreek Hill was there. Now, the thing about that play, which I really think was a big unique part about it, and especially on that drive especially, is that I do not like when you're with the Browns in that situation, you are expecting to run the ball. But the bottom line is when you see Chad Henne running, showing up that play, you're not expecting that. And usually in that play, I wasn't even expecting it either. But I have to give the ball, I have to give the credit to Chad Henne and Andy Reid for calling that play. That was by far one of the most gutsiest and most payoff decisions that they made. I mean, because if you literally make that play and then somehow they don't get it, then Andy Reid gets a lot of blame thrown back on him. Because now you're giving them the ball back with, and they didn't even run more time off the clock then. They still had a good, 15, 20 seconds left on the play clock there. And you don't get it. They basically have a minute and a short field. So basically, within that time span, you basically had one play. That was the difference in this game. And that was, instead of actually handing it off and trying to get it the easy, quote-unquote easy way in that scenario, which I don't think he probably wouldn't have even gotten it because there were that many guys stacked up on the box. But the thing is that I have to give, once again, tremendous credit to Chad Henne for carrying the team on the back and making the big plays when time is there. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you all in the next video. And once again, the Kansas City Chiefs moving on to the AFC Championship game for the 3rd straight year. Have a great night, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the Bucs Saints game, and go Chiefs.